I woke up on Christmas morning, December 25th at 6 a.m., just like always. Rita Fowler, 32 years old, alone in the house. I'd called home since I was a kid. The calendar screamed joy family presents under the tree, but Christmas had lost its spark since my husband passed 3 years ago. He was the one who made this season matter, stringing lights on the porch, humming carols while we baked cookies. Without him, the house in Pineview, Montana felt hollow, echoing memories I couldn't escape. I skipped decorations this year. No tree, no tinsel. Just coffee black and toast with almond butter. My routine was my anchor, holding me steady in a life that felt adrift. I sipped my coffee at the kitchen table where we used to host Christmas dinners. The silence pressed in, broken only by the fridge's hum. Then my phone buzzed, slicing through the quiet. My father's voice came through, overly cheerful for 7 a.m. "We're coming over at noon, sweetheart. Your mom and I want to celebrate Christmas with you. It's been too long." I froze coffee cup halfway to my lips. My parents visiting. They hadn't set foot here since the funeral. Last time they walked away with $5,000 from my savings for emergency expenses. That money never came back. "Sounds great, Dad," I said, forcing warmth into my voice. "I'll be here." I hung up my gut, twisting. They weren't coming for carols or eggnog. I could feel it. Something was wrong, like when they borrowed cash for my brother's failed startup. This house, my house, was all I had left of my husband's legacy. Built with his hands, every plank, every nail, a piece of our life together. I'd fought to keep it after he died, scraping by as a graphic designer in a small town. But Pineview was changing, developers circling my land for condos. My parents knew that. They always had a nose for money. Noon came fast. Their car rolled up, tires crunching on the gravel drive. My mother's voice cut through the window, sharp, already planning something. My father's laugh followed, hollow and forced. I stood at the sink, gripping the counter. This Christmas wasn't about family. It was about them trying to take my home, maybe even burning it down to get what they wanted. I wasn't going to let them win. If this story grabs you, don't miss what happens next. Subscribe now, hit that bell, and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Let's uncover the truth together. I stood at the kitchen sink, hands still gripping the counter, when the doorbell rang at noon sharp. My parents were nothing if not punctual. I wiped my hands on a dish towel, took a deep breath, and opened the door. My father, Bernard, stood there in a pressed wool coat, a forced smile stretching across his face. My mother, Hazel, was right behind him, clutching a foil-covered tray, her lipstick a shade too bright for a small-town Christmas. Their black SUV gleamed in the driveway, a stark contrast to my beat-up hatchback. They looked out of place, like they were staging a performance. "Sweetheart," my father said, pulling me into a hug that felt more like a pat-down. "Merry Christmas." My mother followed, her perfume sharp and expensive, enveloping me as she air-kissed my cheek. "We brought your favorite lasagna," she said, handing me the tray. I hadn't eaten lasagna in years. My husband used to make it better than anyone in Pineview, with fresh basil from our garden. They wouldn't know that. They never asked. "Thanks, Mom," I said, setting the tray on the counter. "Come in." They stepped inside, my father's eyes scanning the living room like he was appraising it. My mother's heels clicked on the hardwood floor, a sound that set my teeth on edge. They'd brought a bottle of wine and a box of pastries from a bakery in Missoula, 40 miles away. Fancy but not thoughtful. I knew the game. They always showed up with gifts when they wanted something. We sat at the dining table, the same one where my husband and I used to carve pumpkins with my niece. The lasagna was too salty, the wine too sweet, but I nodded and smiled as they talked. My father went on about his golf club membership, how he was this close to getting on the board. My mother bragged about her new book club, dropping names of Pineview's elite like they were her best friends. I noticed they didn't ask about my work, my life, or how I was holding up without my husband. Not once. Then it came. My mother set her fork down, dabbed her lips with a napkin, and exchanged a quick glance with my father. The air shifted like a storm rolling in. "Rita," she said, her voice syrupy, "we're worried about you. Living alone in this big house at your age. It's too much." I froze, fork hovering over my plate. Here it was, the pitch. "What do you mean, Mom?" I asked, keeping my tone even. My father leaned forward, elbows on the table. "This place is a lot to maintain, sweetheart. The roof needs work, the pipes are old. You're only 32. You should be out living your life, not tied to a house that's falling apart." I almost laughed. The roof was fine. I'd had it inspected last year. The pipes were new, replaced after my husband's death. They were lying, and not even cleverly. "I'm fine here, Dad," I said, setting my fork down. "This house is my home. It's paid off. I'm not going anywhere." My mother's smile tightened, her eyes narrowing just a fraction. "Rita, be reasonable," she said. "We found a perfect condo in Missoula. Modern, low maintenance, perfect for a young woman like you. You could sell this place, pocket the cash, and start fresh." "Sell it?" I repeated, my voice sharper than I intended. "To who? Those developers sniffing around Pineview?" My father's face didn't change, but his fingers twitched on his glass. "Gotcha. It's just an option," he said quickly. "The market's hot right now. You could get a good price, maybe $300,000, enough to set you up nicely." I leaned back, crossing my arms. "And what would I do with that money? Dad hand it over to you like last time?" Silence fell heavy and thick. My mother's lips pressed into a thin line. My father cleared his throat, but before he could speak, my phone buzzed. "A text from my brother Neil, can't make it today. Work stuff." "Sorry." Typical. He was always too busy with his failing real estate deals to show up, but I bet he was in on this too. "Rita, we're just trying to help," my mother said, her voice softer now, like she was soothing a child. "You're young, but this house is a burden. What if something happens? A fire, a break-in? You're all alone." Her words hit like a slap. A fire? Why would she even say that? I studied her face, searching for a tell. Her eyes flicked away just for a second. My father stared at his plate, avoiding my gaze. "I can handle myself, Mom," I said, standing to clear the dishes. "I've been doing it for 3 years." The clatter of plates filled the awkward silence. My father tried to change the subject, rambling about the Christmas parade in town, but I wasn't listening. My mind was racing. They'd done this before, borrowed money, made promises, left me holding the bag. $5,000 here, $10,000 there, always for investments that went nowhere. My brother's last venture, a strip mall that never got built, cost me my emergency fund. And now they wanted my house, the one thing I'd sworn to protect. As they left, my mother hugged me, her grip too tight. "Think about it, Rita," she whispered. "It's for your own good." My father patted my shoulder, his smile strained. "We just want you safe, sweetheart." I watched their SUV pull away, taillights glowing red in the dusk. Safe. Right. They didn't care about my safety. They cared about the money this land could bring, and I'd be damned if I let them take it. I went back inside, locking the door behind me. My phone buzzed again, a voicemail from my niece Fern. "Aunt Rita, Merry Christmas. I wanted to come, but Dad said no. Call me, okay?" Her voice was bright, genuine, the only real thing in this mess. I smiled, but it faded fast. Something was coming. I could feel it in my bones. My parents had a plan, and it wasn't about family. It was about getting what they wanted, even if it meant destroying everything I had. The morning after Christmas, I woke up at 6 a.m., same as always. My parents' visit still gnawed at me, their words about selling the house looping in my head. I needed to clear my mind, so I grabbed my coat and headed to Pineview's Christmas market. Every December 26th, The town square filled with stalls selling handmade ornaments, hot cider, and leftover holiday trinkets. It was my ritual, a way to hold on to the season my husband loved. I left the house at 7:30, locking the door behind me, the chill of Montana's winter biting my face. The market was bustling, locals haggling over knitted scarves and wooden reindeer. I wandered, picking up a small snow globe for my niece Fern. It reminded me of the ones my husband used to collect. I was at a stall paying for it when my phone buzzed. It was my mother, Hazel, her voice frantic. "Rita, where are you? Oh, thank God you're okay." My stomach dropped. "I'm at the market, Mom. What's wrong?" There was a pause too long. "It's your house, sweetheart," she said, her voice breaking. "It's on fire." I dropped the snow globe, the glass shattering on the pavement. "What do you mean on fire?" I demanded, already running to my car. "The fire department's there," she said. "But it's bad, Rita. Really bad." I hung up my hand, shaking as I fumbled with the keys. The drive home was a blur, my heart pounding. Pineview's a small town 10 minutes from the square to my street, but it felt like hours. As I turned the corner, I saw it, thick black smoke curling into the sky, flames licking the roof of my house. The house my husband built. The house we dreamed of growing old in. 3 fire trucks lined the street, their sirens silent, but lights flashing. A crowd of neighbors stood behind, caution tape whispering. An ambulance waited nearby, its doors closed. I stumbled out of my car, legs weak, staring at the inferno. The windows glowed orange, the porch collapsing in a shower of sparks. Everything, our photos, his tools, my life was burning. My mother rushed toward me, her face streaked with tears. "Rita, oh honey," she cried, throwing her arms around me. My father, Bernard, followed, his expression grim. "We thought you were inside," he said, his voice hoarse. I pulled back, staring at them. "How did you know I wasn't?" I asked, my voice sharp. My mother blinked, her hands fluttering. We called you and you didn't answer at home, so I tried the market." I narrowed my eyes. I never told them I was going to the market. It was my routine, sure, but they'd never cared enough to notice. "You called the market," I pressed. My father cut in. "We called around Rita. We were worried." His eyes darted to the ground, avoiding mine. A firefighter approached, his face smudged with soot. "Ms. Fowler, I'm Captain Larson. I'm sorry, but the house is a total loss. The fire started upstairs near your bedroom. Spread fast." "My bedroom?" "Where I kept my husband's old sketches, our wedding album, everything that mattered." "Any idea what caused it?" I asked, my voice barely steady. He hesitated. "Too early to say. We'll investigate once it's safe. But it looks like it could be electrical." Electrical, I'd had the wiring redone 2 years ago, top of the line, checked by a pro. I hired the guy myself. I turned to my parents, their faces a mix of grief and something else, relief. "You were here?" I asked. My father nodded. "We drove by to drop off leftovers from yesterday. Saw the smoke, called 911. My mother clutched my arm. "We were so scared, Rita. Thank God you were at the market." There it was again. The market. How did they know? And why were they here so early, unannounced? My neighbor, Mrs. Callahan, wasn't home. She spent every December 26th with her son in Bozeman. No one would have seen anything. The flames roared, devouring the roof. I stood frozen, watching my life turn to ash. But a cold certainty settled in my chest. This wasn't an accident. It was too convenient, too perfectly timed. My parents' visit yesterday, their push to sell the house, their sudden mention of a fire. And now my home, my husband's legacy was gone. I looked at my mother, her tears too perfect, like she'd practiced them. My father's hands were shoved in his pockets, his jaw tight. They knew something. I could feel it. "We need to get you somewhere safe," my mother said, guiding me toward their SUV. "You can stay with us." I shook my head, stepping back. I'm not going anywhere with you. Her eyes widened, but she didn't argue. My father muttered, Rita, don't be stubborn. You've got nowhere else to go. I ignored him, turning back to the fire. Captain Larson approached again. Ms. Fowler, we searched as much as we could. No one was inside, thank God. Do you have a place to stay? I'll figure it out, I said, my voice flat. My mother started to protest, but I cut her off. I need to be alone. They exchanged a look, quick but loaded, like they were recalculating. I walked to my car, my phone buzzing in my pocket. Another text from my brother Neil heard about the fire. You okay, call me. I didn't reply. Neil hadn't shown up yesterday, but he was always in on their schemes. I'd deal with him later. As I drove away, the smoke still rising behind me, I couldn't shake the thought my parents knew I'd be at the market. They knew the house would be empty, and they knew the land was worth a fortune to developers. This fire wasn't bad luck. It was a plan, and I was going to find out exactly what they'd done. I drove to a motel on the edge of Pineview, the smell of smoke still clinging to my clothes. The image of my house burning, flames eating the roof, my husband's sketches turning to ash played on a loop in my head. My parents' faces, their two perfect tears, and that slip about the market kept gnawing at me. They knew I'd be gone. They knew the house would be empty. And they knew the land was worth a fortune. I checked into a room, locked the door, and sat on the stiff bed, my phone in hand. I needed answers, and I needed them now. I called Daniel Harper, my lawyer, and my husband's old friend. He picked up on the second ring. Rita, I heard about the fire. Are you okay? His voice was steady, grounding me. I'm fine, Daniel, I said, but my house is gone. And I think my parents had something to do with it. There was a pause. That's a serious accusation, he said carefully. Do you have proof? Not yet, I admitted, but they knew I was at the market. They pushed me to sell the house yesterday. It's too convenient. Daniel didn't argue. What do you need from me? He asked. I need you to pull the trigger on Plan B, I said. It's time. Plan B wasn't something I'd ever wanted to use. My husband set it up before he died, a safety net most people didn't know about. He wasn't just a carpenter with a knack for building houses. He'd been smart with money, buying up properties in Pineview and beyond, quietly building a portfolio under a company called Evergreen Holdings. Named after me in a way, Rita, like the evergreen trees that lined our property. I didn't touch it after he passed, didn't want to. It felt like betraying him. But now with my house gone and my parents circling like vultures, I had no choice. Evergreen Holdings owns the apartment building where my parents live, I told Daniel. I want you to send them an eviction notice. 30 days? Daniel exhaled. Rita, that's a big move. You sure? They burned my house, Daniel. I said, my voice hard. Or they plan to. I'm not letting them walk away. He didn't push back. I'll draft the notices today. They'll get them by tomorrow morning. Anything else, check the company records, I said. Make sure everything's airtight. I don't want them tracing it back to me yet. I hung up my hands, shaking, but not from fear, anger. Evergreen Holdings wasn't just a name on paper. It owned half the commercial real estate in Pineview strip mall's office spaces, even the building where my brother Neil rented his failing real estate office. My parents had no idea. They thought I was scraping by, a struggling graphic designer living in a house too big for one person. They didn't know I was one of the biggest landlords in the county. My husband made sure of that, keeping it all under shell companies, hidden from everyone, even me, until I needed it. I opened my laptop and pulled up the insurance paperwork for the house. The policy was solid, but I knew claims could take months, especially if the fire wasn't an accident. My phone buzzed a text from my mother. Rita, we're so worried. Come stay with us. We'll sort this out. I stared at the words, my jaw tight. Sort this out. like they hadn't been sorting it out their way for years, borrowing money, making promises they never kept. I didn't reply. Another buzz. This time a voicemail from Fern, my niece. "Aunt Rita, I heard about the house. I'm so sorry. Dad's acting weird, saying you shouldn't be alone. Call me, please." Fern's voice was soft, worried, the only genuine thing in this mess. I almost called her back, but I stopped myself. She was Neil's daughter, and Neil was too close to my parents. I couldn't trust anyone yet. The next morning, I met Daniel at his office, a small brick building downtown. He slid a folder across the desk. "Eviction notices are ready," he said. "Your parents' apartment and Neil's office, both owned by Evergreen Holdings. They'll get them today." I nodded, flipping through the documents. Everything was in order, legal, clean, untouchable. "What about the fire investigation?" I asked. Daniel leaned back. "The fire department's still looking. Preliminary report says it started in your bedroom, possibly electrical, but they're digging deeper. Found traces of something, maybe an accelerant." "Accelerant!" I repeated, my heart racing. "Like gasoline," Daniel nodded. "They're not sure yet. Could be a chemical from cleaning supplies. But if it's arson, the insurance won't pay out and the police will get involved." I clenched my fists. Arson. It fit too well. My parents pushed to sell their slip about the market, the fire starting in my bedroom. "Keep me posted," I said. "And don't let anyone know I'm behind Evergreen Holdings." Back at the motel, I got a call from my mother. "Rita, we need to talk," she said, her voice tight. "The insurance company sent papers. They're asking questions about the fire. I played dumb." "What kind of questions, Mom?" "They're saying it might not be an accident." She said, her words clipped. "They want to talk to you, and they sent us something else." She hesitated. What I pressed. "A notice," she said, "from some company called Evergreen Holdings. They're evicting us from our apartment. 30 days. I let the silence hang, savoring it. "That's awful, Mom," I said, my tone flat. "Why would they do that? I don't know." She snapped, her composure cracking. "We've paid rent on time every month. Your father's calling a lawyer, but this is insane. First your house, now." This I could hear my father in the background muttering something about bad luck. Bad luck, my foot. This was justice. "Rita, you need to come to our place," my mother said. "We need to figure this out together. As a family." Family. The word tasted bitter. "I'm busy, Mom," I said, "dealing with the fire. I'll call you later." I hung up before she could argue. My phone buzzed again, Neil this time. "Sis, what's going on? I got an eviction notice for my office. Evergreen Holdings. You know anything about this?" I didn't answer. Let him sweat. That afternoon, I went through the insurance papers. The amount they offered was decent, $250,000, but less than the house was worth. There was a catch: they needed a signed power of attorney to manage my finances during the claim process. My mother had slipped a similar form into the stack, all smiles and standard procedure. I tossed it aside. They weren't getting a dime, not after this. I called Daniel again. "They're pushing for power of attorney," I told him. "My mother sent me a form." He sighed. Classic move. "They want control of your money, Rita. Don't sign anything." "I won't," I said. "But I need one more thing. Find out who's been buying up land in Pineview. If my parents aren't behind the fire, someone else is." Daniel promised to dig into it. I leaned back, staring at the motel ceiling. My parents thought they could play me, but they didn't know who they were dealing with. Evergreen Holdings was my ace, and I was about to play it. I was still at the motel, staring at the insurance papers scattered across the bed when my phone rang. It was my mother, Hazel, her voice sharp enough to cut glass. "Rita, we need to see you. Now. No sweetheart, no soft tone. Just urgency. I'm at the Pineview Motel Room 12. I said, keeping my voice calm. Come by whenever. She didn't respond, just hung up. I knew what was coming. The eviction notices had landed, and they were furious. An hour later, a knock rattled the door. I opened it to find my parents standing there, faces like thunderclouds. My father, Bernard, stepped inside first, his fists clenched. My mother followed, her eyes, cold lips pressed into a thin line. "You," my father said, pointing a finger at me. "You're behind this, aren't you?" I leaned against the wall, crossing my arms. "Behind what, Dad?" I asked, playing dumb. His face reddened. "Don't act innocent, Rita. Evergreen Holdings. That's your company, isn't it? Evicting us from our apartment, your brother from his office. How could you—" I raised an eyebrow. "You think I own Evergreen Holdings? That's a stretch." My mother stepped forward, her voice low and controlled. "We talked to our lawyer, Rita. The company's registered to a trust, and guess who's the beneficiary? You." I let the silence hang, watching them squirm. They'd done their homework faster than I expected. "Sit down," I said, pointing to the 2 chairs by the motel's rickety table. "Let's talk." They sat, my father glaring, my mother gripping her purse like a lifeline. "Why would I evict you?" I asked, my tone even. "Unless you gave me a reason." My father scoffed. "A reason we're your parents, Rita. We've only ever wanted what's best for you." I laughed, sharp and bitter. Best for me, like pushing me to sell my house. Or maybe setting it on fire to make it happen. Their faces froze. My father's jaw dropped and my mother's eyes widened just for a second before she caught herself. "What are you talking about?" My mother said, her voice too high. "That fire was an accident. The fire department said it was electrical. Did they—" I shot back. "Because my lawyer says they found traces of accelerant in my bedroom. Gasoline, Mom. And you two knew I'd be at the market that morning. Convenient, right?" My father's hands shook, but he didn't look away. "You're out of your mind, Rita. We'd never hurt you." "Really?" I leaned forward, locking eyes with him. "Then why were you so quick to push me into a condo? Why did you slip a power of attorney into the insurance papers? You thought I wouldn't notice." My mother's face paled, her fingers tightening on her purse. "That was just a precaution," she stammered. "For your safety." "Safety," I repeated, my voice dripping with sarcasm. "You wanted my money, not my safety. You wanted the land, the $300,000 it's worth. And when I wouldn't sell, you planned to burn my house down." My father stood his chair, scraping the floor. "That's enough, Rita. You can't prove any of this." His voice cracked, betraying him. I stayed calm, crossing my arms. "Maybe not yet. But I know you, Dad. You and Mom have been bleeding me dry for years. $5,000 for emergencies, $10,000 for Neil's strip mall that never happened. And now my house is gone, and you're pretending to care." My mother's eyes filled with tears, but I wasn't buying it. "Rita, please," she said, reaching for my hand. I pulled away. "We didn't set the fire. We thought about it. Okay. We talked about it, but we didn't do it. We were desperate. Your father's pension isn't enough, and Neil's business is tanking. We thought if the house was gone, you'd sell the land, and we could all start over." I stared at her, my blood running cold. They admitted it. Not the act, but the intent. That was enough. "You thought about it," I repeated, my voice low. "You planned to destroy my home, my husband's legacy for money." My father sat back down, his shoulders slumping. "We didn't do it, Rita," he said, quieter now. "We couldn't go through with it." "I didn't care. Intent was as good as action in my book." They'd crossed a line, and there was no going back. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed. A text from Laura Bennett, my old friend from high school who worked at the town clerk's office. "Rita, you need to know. Fire investigations pointing to arson. They found a gas can with prints belongs to Jack Thornton, that developer who's been after your land. I froze rereading the text. Jack Thornton. The guy who'd sent me offers for my property every month, each one higher than the last. Not my parents, but they'd known about the fire plan to use it. I looked up at them, their faces a mix of fear and guilt. You didn't set the fire, I said slowly, but you were going to. And when it happened, you saw your chance. You pushed me to sell to sign over my finances to make it all go away. My mother's tears spilled over. Rita, we were wrong. We're sorry. We needed the money. My father nodded, his voice barely a whisper. We messed up, sweetheart. Let us make it right. I stood, my hands shaking with rage. Make it right. You stood there while my house burned, knowing it was your ticket to cash. You let me think I'd lost everything, and you still tried to take more. There's no making this right. My mother reached for me again. Rita, please. We're your parents. I stepped back, my voice cold. Not anymore. You're nothing to me now. They sat there stunned as I grabbed my phone and keys. Get out, I said, and don't come back. My father opened his mouth, but no words came. My mother sobbed, clutching her purse. They left, the door clicking shut behind them. I sank onto the bed, my heart pounding. Jack Thornton might have lit the match, but my parents fanned the flames. They'd pay for it one way or another. After my parents left the motel, the silence was deafening. Their confession admitting they'd planned to burn my house, even if they didn't light the match, sat like a stone in my chest. I didn't feel relief or closure, just a cold final certainty. They weren't my family anymore. I'd spent years giving them chances, handing over money, believing their promises. But that ended now. I was done. I stayed at the motel for a week, sorting through the wreckage of my life. The insurance company called, confirming what Laura Bennett had texted Jack Thornton, the developer, had been arrested. His fingerprints were on a gas can found near my house, and a neighbor's security camera caught his truck that morning. He'd wanted my land for a condo project, thought a fire would force me to sell. My parents hadn't started it, but they'd seen the flames and smelled opportunity. That was worse in a way. They didn't just betray me, they planned to profit from my loss. I met Daniel Harper at his office the next day. Rita, the eviction notices are in effect, he said, sliding a folder across his desk. Your parents have 25 days left in their apartment. Neil's office is the same. You sure about this? I nodded, my jaw tight. They made their choice, Daniel. They don't get to play family now. He didn't argue, just handed me another document. This is for Evergreen Holdings. You need to decide what to do with the assets. The company's worth millions, properties across Pineview and 2 towns over. I took the folder, my husband's legacy heavy in my hands. Evergreen Holdings wasn't just money, it was his foresight, his way of protecting me. I'd been too broken to touch it after he died, but now it was my shield. I'm setting up a trust, I told Daniel, for Pineview, a fund for seniors who can't afford rent, kids who need school supplies. I want it to mean something. Daniel smiled, a rare softness in his eyes. Your husband would be proud, Rita. I didn't call my parents. They tried reaching me, texts, voicemails, even a letter slipped under my motel door. Rita, we're sorry. Let's talk. I threw it in the trash. My brother Neil called once, his voice slurred with panic. Sis, I'm losing everything. My office, my clients. You can't do this to us. I hung up without a word. He'd known about their plan even if he didn't act on it. That was enough to cut him out too. Fern, my niece, was different. She texted me a few days later. Aunt Rita, I'm so sorry about the house. Can I see you? I met her at a diner in town. Her young face pale with worry. Dad's a mess, she said, stirring her milkshake. He's staying on my couch, drinking too much. Grandma and Grandpa are moving to a cheap rental in Bozeman. They keep saying you're ruining them. I sighed, squeezing her hand. Fern, they tried to take my home. They planned it even if someone else lit the fire. I can't forgive that. She nodded, tears in her eyes. I know. I wish things were different. So did I. But wishes don't rebuild houses or mend broken trust. You're not like them, I told her. You're the only one who ever cared without asking for something. I'm setting up a trust for you for college, your future. But your dad and grandparents, they're on their own. Fern hugged me, her grip tight. Thank you, Aunt Rita, she whispered. I held her close, the only piece of family I had left. I moved into a small apartment downtown, using Evergreen Holdings funds to cover it. The trust was finalized a week later with Daniel's help. Half the company's profits would go to Pineview's seniors, and kids the other half to Fern's future. I kept enough for myself to start over a new home, a new chapter. My parents and Neil were out of my life for good. I heard through Laura that they'd moved to Bozeman, renting a cramped place they could barely afford. Neil's business collapsed, his clients jumping ship. They were learning what it felt like to lose everything, just like they'd planned for me. Sitting in my new apartment, I thought about what I'd been through. My house was gone, my husband's sketches and our wedding album reduced to ash. But I wasn't broken. I'd stood up to my parents, to their greed, and come out stronger. They thought they could control me, take what was mine, but they didn't know who I was. I was my husband's wife, the woman he trusted to carry his legacy. And I'd done it not with anger, but with purpose. Looking back, I realized something. Greed doesn't just destroy things, it destroys people. My parents let it consume them, turning them into strangers who'd rather burn my home than love their daughter. They thought money would fix their problems, but it cost them everything. I learned the hard way that family isn't about blood, it's about who stands by you, who sees you, not your bank account. Fern was that for me. She reminded me of my husband, of the good in this world. If you're watching this, take it from me. Don't let greed blind you. It can make you hurt the people you're supposed to protect, and once you cross that line, there's no going back. Protect what matters, your home, your heart, your integrity. I lost my house, but I gained something more, the strength to walk away from those who'd harm me. You can too. Hold tight to the people who love you for you, not for what you can give them. Thank you for listening to my story. It's been a hard road, but sharing it means something. If it resonated with you, please subscribe, hit that bell, and leave a comment below. Tell me, have you ever had to stand up to family? Share your story. Let's keep this conversation going.